Hello and welcome back. It is Jack Mack with High Top Sports Georgia. Got JT on this week to cover SEC games from this past weekend. South Carolina with a big win. Georgia pulling away a little bit late in Jacksonville. We're going to get into all of that as well as preview into the next week. We'll get into as well a little bit of a DJ Lagway Nico comparison about where they're at in their rookie campaigns. But first, from a non-biased outsider, JT, what are your thoughts about, I guess we'll go with just this Georgia-Florida game, how that unfolded, and then we'll go into our thoughts about the SEC as a whole.
Yeah, I just to kind of start with my immediate takeaway from that game. It's kind of hard to take too much away from it. I think at the beginning of the game, you're kind of sitting there, you're like, wow, okay, we got a game on our hands here. This is going to be close. Carson Beck is struggling with turnovers once again. Obviously, Florida was able to capitalize before Lagway got hurt on one of those interceptions. Big throw down the field, take the lead. And so I was kind of sitting there like, wow, I'm thinking this game is going to be tight for most of the game, and we're going to be in for a bit of a dogfight here. But obviously, Lagway ends up getting hurt, leaves the game, and then the guy that came in after him we'll just say he struggled. It was a rough ride. He was not very good. But my biggest takeaway is that this is not the Georgia team that we are used to seeing. That, plainly put, this is not the same Georgia team that we've seen over the last few years. They look extremely gettable. Carson Beck has regressed immensely from last season, and I think that's due to a few things. Obviously, one for me is Georgia's inability to run the football for the most part. It doesn't even seem like they want to run the football. It feels like they're putting way too much in Carson Beck's hands. I don't think they have the talent on the outside to be able to do that. Coming into the season, I thought Dylan Bell was going to have a great year, and he's kind of, he makes a play here and there. Obviously, he had a great catch during that game, but it just seems that they're pretty underwhelming on the outside for the most part. And then I think defensively, I think there's some mistakes they make. I think they have a great pass rush, but I don't think they are great in the middle there, at least as good as they have been with Jalen Carter and all those guys that they've had over the last few years. And on the back end, the reason I think Florida scored that touchdown is because they made a mistake on the back end, and that guy was running wide open down the field. But yeah, that was kind of my biggest takeaway. I don't think I can take a ton away. I think, like I said, once Lagway got hurt, it was pretty much a wash at that point, and Florida couldn't really score. And Georgia took over the game there towards the end, especially in the second half, which, one takeaway I do have that Georgia is a second half team, it seems like, able to create some turnovers, create some havoc, and kind of pull away there at the end. But yeah, they got a tough game coming up here. This is going to be the true test, in my opinion, Ole Miss here this weekend.
Yeah, I agree with 90% of what you said there. And I have a video coming out later, recorded earlier, just my solo raw reaction of the game. And the first part of that's like you heard what I said about Carson Beck, the wide receivers, not being able to run the football. I agree 100%. Carson Beck is going to be the reason Georgia wins in Natty or the reason they don't. I mean, if he continues to play like this, the defense will not be able to bail him out against some of these better teams. 100% agree there. I do disagree with the defensive part. I think there's a lapse here and there, but when your quarterback has 3 turnovers every first half, you're not put in a position to succeed. And really that one deep throw by Lagway early was a little bit of a blown coverage, but I've come away with, it's just a tale of, two sides of the ball. The Georgia defense, I believe, has matured and grown up, sometimes play down to their level of competition, but that championship defense and pedigree is there. In that Texas game, I mean, not many teams can overcome 3 turnovers and win a game by double digits against the number 1 team in the country on the road. So they have the ability to win a championship, but Carson Beck, if he does not make changes and stop turning the football over, he will be the reason they don't. 100% agreed. I mean, the fact that Florida stayed in it, even with the backup into the fourth quarter, not a great sign. Playing down a level of competition. And again, I have a whole video coming out about this, but they've been consistently inconsistent or consistently average, especially out wide receivers. Sometimes Dylan Bell, to your point, is making plays. Sometimes he's not. This Saturday was Dominic Lovett. He was the guy. We can't have Dylan Bell, Dominic Lovett producing at the same time. Doesn't seem like it just hasn't worked out that way. Running the football, I've been preaching going under center a little bit more, but that's not going to happen. Last thing, Carson Beck needs to break up with Cavender. That's a moot point. Probably not going to happen. The dude's getting paid 7 figures, dating a TikTok star. No one can tell me that shit is not getting to his head. And I'll leave it there. But he's a head case, and Carson Beck needs to figure it out. But
let
me
ask you this: do you think how much do you think it falls on Mike Bobo in this? And his, it kind of feels like he. I think he has a lot of confidence in Beck. I think Carson Beck has a great arm. I think there's decisions he makes. Maybe it's just trying to do too much, when it's not there. Like, honestly, I think it was the first interception, like Florida's in his own coverage. The guy kind of looks open, but I don't know if he just missed a safety coming over, but, ends up throwing in a double coverage and throws an interception. Like, at that point, and it feels like they kind of abandon the run in some points. Like it's just pass. Like, it's crazy.
It's a 7-on-7 offense.
Yeah.
Like that's, and it is. I'm glad you mentioned that. Bobo, he had some moments. I don't want to get too far into the Bobo slander, but you're right. He doesn't put Carson in a position to succeed down after down, having to drop back 50 times a game. Again, that's why I want them to go a little bit more old school. Under center, natural play action where the defense is not just ready for, all right, Carson Beck's going to take it. He might, do the same running play that they do, or it's a pass. And he's going to, it's very predictable. Yeah. To me, the answer to that is changing it foundationally, but look at where we're at in the season. In November, I don't see us doing very many under center looks, or even, go back to the pistol a little bit, just with the running back behind you. To give the illusion of that play action pass, I think would be a big improvement. But yeah, any quarterback, if you're asked to throw 50 times a game in the SEC, you're asking for trouble 100%. But I just don't think I think that's who they are. I don't think they're going to change it at this point.
Yeah.
So
it's surprising to me, Georgia's had this style, and we've talked about this before. It's like when Stetson Bennett was leaving, and you had this kind of thought of, all right, well, what's next? Like, how bad is it really going to hurt us? And then we sit there and everybody kind of forgets that Todd Monken also left, and Todd Monken was the biggest loss that they've had. He's the reason that Stetson Bennett was able to be in the position he was. And to your point, it's because, and you watch with the Ravens now, different style. You have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, which fits perfectly for what Todd Monken wants to do. Because to your point, they're in the pistol, they're getting downhill, and I think obviously he put Stetson Bennett under center a ton, and you were able to run downhill. You had DeAndre Swift, you had guys like that were just one cut and go. But that's the type of football you're used to with Georgia. Was they're going to out physical you, and then they're going to get shots off when they've ran the ball umpteenth amount of times on you and just worn you down, and then you come up on that play action and Stetson beat you deep. So it's definitely a different style of offense we've seen from Georgia.
It's finesse. Finesse now. Our running game, instead of what you're saying, instead of even the toss sweeps, which I've mentioned for weeks, we've ran the toss sweep 3 times this year. I think we got 3 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing that, we'll throw a screen 6 times a game to Dominic Lovett, which – it's hard to hate on it because that's our best offense right now, is throwing screens. Cash Jones out of the backfield for a 20-yard run. That's where our productivity comes from, is the screen game. That's our running game now. So you're right. It's a complete night and day difference. And when you change that much, of course, you're going to get some drop off and some mistakes. So not a good feeling, I'll tell you, on that side of the ball, but it's just such a weird place to be. Like you're saying, it's different from the last few years, because I do have the same feeling about this Georgia defense. I think they are able to, they do have it in them to take over football games. Even like that big hit, like Daniel Harris had a screen, just popped the wide receiver. And there was just kind of a shift from that point. So I feel good there, but on the offense, it makes you uneasy. That's for sure.
Yeah,
it's like
it's kind of, you're at this point where you're like, all right, well, these turnovers are going to get us at some point. Like it's going to come back to bite us. And it did,
It will.
obviously, in the Alabama game, it did to a point. But yeah, it'll be interesting this week when they go to good Ole Miss. We'll get on that, but we can talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Absolutely. Lane Kiffin still's got to prove it to me. But first around the league, shout out to South Carolina. What a game. They got after him. They got after him. Columbia was rocking. I just had a feeling going into that place at night. I mean, Tennessee's seen it. I mean, that place can get wild quickly. Georgia's seen it. I mean, so yeah, the big takeaway was during the week, everyone was kind of thinking, can South Carolina score enough? We know they had a good defense, but their offense, I haven't seen their offense look like that. I know they look good against Oklahoma, but yeah, something changed after that Alabama game for South Carolina. It's almost like, all right, we've been close a couple times. It's time. I mean, we know who we are. We just need to finish. And they felt like they had the confidence even after losing to Bama. But yeah, what do you think about that game?
Yeah, I've experienced it. 2022, Tennessee's in the same spot, pretty much like the exact same spot as Texas A&M. Must-win game, going in there at 7:30 in a blackout. Like, I remember turning on the TV and seeing that place. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a grind. And when I saw the schedule this year, I'm like, because we played them last year at home, and I thought we were going to have to go there this year. I'm like, oh, thank God we don't have to go to Columbia, because I just knew that game would end up being same spot. And honestly, Texas A&M probably took our spot in that game because we usually play them around the same time. But yeah, it's cleared up the picture in the SEC a little bit here. We're down to we're pretty much down to 3, right? We got Texas, Georgia, and Tennessee all sitting there with 1 loss.
Ole Miss, Ole Miss plays himself into it.
Ole Miss, they have what? They have 1 or 2.
They have 2 losses, but they can. I mean, if they beat Georgia, they're right there.
Yeah, no, yeah, there's a ton on that game this year, this upcoming weekend. But I think it kind of exposed the issue that Texas A&M has had this year. I think the quarterback is great. What's his name?
Marcel Reed. That works a lot at home. That running game with the crowd behind you, that works at home, but not on the road.
Yeah. And when you have they've been flipping back and forth between him and Wegman all year. And I've said it before, when you have 2 quarterbacks and you can't decide, you don't really have a quarterback. And that makes it tough. The locker room, I'm sure they love both those guys, but it's hard to rally around 2 guys and 2 different styles of play too. So like when you're game planning, that makes it much tougher because you got a guy that's a great runner, not as good of a thrower as the other guy, and it's just 2 different styles, and so it makes the game plan tough, especially coming in when that at any moment these guys can be flipped out, and then you're playing a different style, so it just makes it tough. And then obviously going into Columbia against a team that has really been good this year. They've been in a lot of games, and it obviously blew it against LSU. We're dominating that game pretty much the whole time. Played with Alabama and Tuscaloosa. Really probably should have won that game too. And it's just a hard spot to go into and play in that environment. So I think it was a product of the environment and obviously just going to play a good team. South Carolina's a good team. They're a scrappy team. So, like I said, I've seen it and it's a tough spot to go into and play and win. But yeah, the 2 quarterback system is hard to have success in my opinion. So
it is. And they got a very interesting game. I don't know how Vandy it worked out for them to play all these teams right after the biggest game. They're playing Texas right after Georgia, Bama right after they played Georgia, now South Carolina after they get a big win. That'll be a very interesting game to watch. But we'll kind of clean up your game with Tennessee. I was leaving Jacksonville, didn't get a great look at the game. Nico had one of his best games. Want to speak more on that? It was, Kentucky came out and showed they were ready to play in the beginning, looked like, but yeah, Tennessee took control there as the game went on. Dylan Sampson running the football. They kind of took over. It looks like the line of scrimmage as that game got into the later stages. But your final takes, clean up with your Vols winning against the Wildcats this weekend.
Yeah, it's kind of been the theme this year. We've started slow in pretty much every game outside of maybe Oklahoma. I feel like we started pretty well in that game, but every other game, it's a struggle in the first quarter to get going. Just seems like it takes a while for us to get on the same page on offense. Obviously, the defense has been incredible and has kept us in every game. I don't even think they've given up 20 points all year, which is awesome because we only got to score 20 points to win. But yeah, Nico, like I said last week, it seems like that second half
That's
of the
an
game.
impressive stat. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, they have
I
not
guess
given up.
19. Arkansas. Was that?
Yeah, Arkansas. Yeah. I think they only gave up 19 in that game, right?
I think that's the highest because
What do we
they
end up
won
losing?
20.
19-17? Is that the score of that game?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't believe our defense has given up more than
Alabama was 17, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Arkansas 19-14. Yeah, we have not given up more than 20 points all
that's
year.
impressive. I didn't realize that.
Yep. So that makes it easy on us because they're going to keep us in a lot of games, and it saved us a lot because obviously Nico's had his mistakes and has made, he's looked like a freshman in some of these games. But when you only got to score 20 points to win, that makes it a lot easier, and it's a big reason of why we're sitting at 6-1. But yeah, it's in the second half we seem to figure it out. In most of these, pretty much all these games, especially on offense, Nico definitely looked better. He made some awesome throws there in the second half, and then obviously Dylan Sampson, who's just been incredible this year. The guy is unbelievable. Breaks the all-time record for touchdowns in a season, which was been up since I think 1929 for the Vols. So that was a big moment there. But no, honestly, it was impressive. Same, I said it last week. Kentucky is a game that we dominate, and it's if we lose to Kentucky, then I'm kind of sitting here like, all right, well, we're pretenders the whole time. But kind of don't want to look past this week with Mississippi State, but already kind of looking at Georgia and looking at that game, which is a 7:30 game on ABC just announced. So yeah, yep. I'm excited to see how we respond this week. Hopefully Nico continues to grow and he continues to take that next step. I think he was 28 of 38 for 292 and a touchdown, and he looked good in that game. So hopefully he continues to grow and we don't see a little regression here.
Yeah, Tennessee, all these teams at the top look beatable. I think that's kind of been the takeaway over the last couple months. I mean, Oregon, I guess you can say Oregon really hasn't showed many flaws this year, but pretty much everybody up there, Ohio State, Georgia, Tennessee, they all have moments of inconsistency and playing down to the level of competition. So as this season goes on into, league championships, playoff, it'll be interesting to see who can put together some more consistency, who can, avoid some of these major mistakes that they're all, going through right now in league play. So these next couple weeks, I think the men are going to separate themselves from the boys. Speaking of men and boys, JT, I think had some issue with, we had the live show in Jacksonville. Speaking on, me and Shelton kind of mapping out what a Florida win would look like. DJ Lagway had to, come out, hit Georgia in the mouth. I said, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. But DJ Lagway, I think if he could come in and provide a spark, who knows? Georgia could be in a fourth quarter game. Obviously, he did get hurt. But it brings up a bigger point. And something, after I think about it, I think it's closer than people think. I mean, Nico with the big expectations this year. And he started off great. I thought, we were hearing Heisman at the beginning of the year, and I know he's still a freshman. But I think him and DJ Lagway, it's a lot closer than people think. And just kind of the outlook on their careers, I wouldn't be so fast to put him ahead of DJ and who I would rather have. So JT, did you have issue with what we were saying? What's the big gripe?
Let me ask you this: Where did this even come from? Obviously, I don't think Lagway has played a whole game other than the Kentucky game, where he was 7 for 14 with I think he threw for, I think I got it written down here, 7 for 14, 259s and a pick. So
that was Tennessee.
No, that was Lagway against Kentucky, and you guys were talking like well, at least the Florida fans in the comment section were acting like the guy put on a Heisman performance. But I mean, did we just get to ignore the running back that had 5 touchdowns in that game? What are we talking about here? That if we're basing it off of that game, and we're going to sit here and say, yeah, this guy is great. The bar has been lowered from Tim Tebow so far down. It's unbelievable. I mean, good Lord. I get the guy's a freshman. Again, he's not played in every game. Like, he's come in and pretty much, I guess most games he's come in and played a little bit, but he had, I guess he started the whole game against Samford, where, I mean, I'll give him credit, threw for like 485 and had an incredible game, but it's Samford. I mean, come on. What do we?
I think the big thing with the DJ Lagway hype is, and I can see it. I mean, look, Georgia's played Florida, and so has Tennessee every year. Obviously, both big rivals, but they haven't had any quarterback. I mean, Kyle Trask, he was all right, but
they've had a quarterback since Tim Tebow.
Look, exactly. Look, they've had Felipe Franks. Anthony Richardson was a top round pick, but we discussed
two guys
that.
That were supposed to be like the truth. They were supposed to be next up.
He was just a freak, not really a quarterback. As we can see, he's not a leader of his team in the NFL. So I think that's kind of where the excitement is they haven't seen it and haven't even had a reason. I mean, with Felipe Franks, I mean, he's a freaking tight end right now in the NFL, I think, still playing special teams from time to time. So I think, dude, it's you know how it is.
In the SEC against Tennessee in 2017, that was about it.
You know how it is. I mean, look, the Florida fans, I think, are like a lot of us. There's some delusion, but you got to psych yourself out. And I do agree that if Florida does win that game in Tennessee, that the whole outlook of that game would have been different. I know we don't want to do woulda, coulda, shoulda, but the game's over. DJ Lagway would have been interesting to see if he would have finished.
He came in that Tennessee, okay, I think I said it in the chat too. If Graham Mertz would have played that whole game, they probably win that game because he was playing well.
And that's a tough spot to put him in.
That is true. That's true. I agree with that. I think Lagway, he had one touchdown pass he made. He also made a terrible interception in that game. And that was pretty much the deciding factor for that game. Tennessee struggles with Florida all the time. Peyton Manning can beat Florida. Like, let's get real about that. Nobody was surprised by how that game went. We can sit here and try to compare and we can make comparisons, but at the end of the day, I get Nico he's had his growing pains. For me, at least, I don't know what anybody else has seen. The second half of the Alabama it seems like he's started to settle in a little bit and he's started to make some better decisions and the game's slowing down for him, especially in that last game. He made some great throws in that game. So I don't know. We'll see. I just thought the Lagway talk was a little blasphemous with the fact that we haven't really seen him play that much. And it's not like, if you go back and if we're looking at numbers, the guy's numbers aren't that great. I get Nico's aren't much better, but
yeah, he was 2 for 6 when he left the Georgia game. He had that one throw, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think
busted coverage.
If you have one thing to say about DJ Lagway, one thing that he is good at, and one thing I would say he's better at Nico is just the deep ball. He can hit the deep ball pretty well for a freshman. He's had some pretty big connections. You're right, some of it against Samford, but something to be excited about. And I really think a lot of this DJ Lagway thing is for Florida fans. You got to put it in this perspective. Billy Napier is DJ Lagway as he goes. That's how Billy Napier goes with the program. It's his guy, and there's been lots of reports about DJ Lagway's gone if Billy Napier's gone. So there's kind of two camps, because if you're on Billy's train, you're really on the DJ Lagway train, and if you're not, you're kind of wanting maybe a couple losses to get him out, type of thing. So there's a lot of things going on in Florida. They got a tough stretch here. They're gone. Hey, look, we don't got to talk about Florida the rest of the year. Their season's over.
That makes it tough, because what if all right, so now you're just pretty much saying, like, they better keep Billy Napier, because it seems like the whole squad's on this Lagway train at this point. So
I agree. Well, the way things have happened, and I think them playing Georgia close, even with the walk-on quarterback. I don't know. I just kind of get a feeling that maybe it is Billy. They maybe made to get another year. I didn't think that was possible, but who knows? Yeah, well, I'd love to see him. Hey, look, as a Georgia fan, I would love to see, and I mentioned this on my show, I'd love to see Billy for a couple more seasons going forward. I'm sure you would too. I don't think he poses a real, I don't know. I just don't trust Florida right now.
Doesn't really matter that much for me. We've beat that team 3 times in the past 2 decades. So I don't even think we've won in the swamp at all. So, well, No, yeah, we haven't won in the swamp. So
Yep. So Georgia took care of one of their ginger adopted little brothers, and then we got our other one in a couple weeks in Tennessee coming in. But we'll talk about that as we go on. But getting into Vandy, South Carolina, we're going to get into that game, LSU, Bama, and then Georgia, Ole Miss. First with South Carolina, Vandy, like we talked about, it's going to be an interesting spot for South Carolina after that win going to Vandy. But I like South Carolina a lot in this game. I think they can get after Pavia. They had to wrangle Reese or Marcel Reed last game. I just think they ride the momentum. It is a typical letdown spot, but I think the Vandy magic is about run out. They beat the state of Alabama. What else? I mean, what else can this team really do, man? I mean, what are we going to say? They're going to win out, beat Tennessee at the end of the year. It's all going to be happy, go lucky for Vandy. I don't think so, dude. I think it's been a good season, and I think I just think the magic is about run out, and I think South Carolina really takes care of business in this game in Nashville. It's in Nashville. How is Vandy getting all these games at home, and they get Tennessee at home at the end?
Where do you think? Where do you have Diego Pavia in your SEC QB rankings? Because I got him. I think he's actually the guy's a dog. I'll give him that. Like
I got Dart at 1.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
He's probably top 3. I mean, where do you put
him? He's got to be top 5 at least. At least, just purely on. I mean, obviously the grit brings him up a ton because the guy's gritty as hell. So I'll give him that.
The quarterback play in the SEC, if you think about it, I mean,
really
besides, Jackson Dart, Pavia might be right there at number 2.
Yeah, it's not been that great. I mean, I guess you can throw
the Sellers has been playing good. South Carolina quarterback.
Yeah,
he looks like he's healthy again. South Carolina fans must be kicking themselves. I mean, they had some winnable games early in the season. They could have, really been playing for something. But yeah, I think this defensive line takes over this game. What do you think?
I'm on the opposite side. I like Vandy in this game. I think they keep it rolling. I think it'll depend on, like you said, South Carolina started hot in a lot of these games, and they've looked really good. And I think they're a good football team. They just kind of struggle to finish sometimes. At least that was the case in the LSU and Alabama game. But I'm kind of on the Vandy train at this point. I like to see him keep it rolling. I think, if it was at South Carolina, I'd be a little bit more inclined to be like, all right, well, maybe this comes to an end. But with it being a home game and the way Vandy's played at home, I like Vandy in this game. I think Diego Pavia they're going to keep it rolling, and they're going to get another win under their belt. I think it's going to be a dogfight of a game. But I do like the Commodores in this game.
All right, and we're gonna start keeping track of these. Whatever we go against each other on, see what we got at the end of the year. Start now. I don't. What was your lock last week? I got to be a better record keeper. Look, guys. Organization is not my strong suit.
2-game winning streak right now. I got these.
JT, how about that? That's your job. Keep track of our locks.
I'll keep track of them. The unders are smacking right now. I've gone under the Indiana game 2 weeks ago. Last week I went under Penn State, Ohio State. So
yeah. So we'll keep track of that. That is a good trend. Make it 3 in a row. I don't know. I heard some. I have an idea of what you might be betting later, but we'll see. So yeah, I got the Gamecocks, baby, Sandstorm. But next, we're gonna get into LSU Bama, big game. Really, one of the other 2 big games. Really, it's the SEC every single week with all the big games. Big Ten will have one every 2 weeks.
Conference is too big now, man. There's too many people, too many teams.
Really is. But hey, we got another great one. Lost a little bit of luster with Alabama sucking recently, but they go into Tiger Stadium at night too. Man, would the wheels fall off this train if they really get embarrassed? LSU coming off of a loss.
Both coming off of bye, correct?
They are both coming off of bye.
Yeah.
Because their last game was Tennessee, right?
Bama?
Yeah.
No,
they lost South.
They dog walked Missouri.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. They look really good there.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is DeBoer can't lose another rivalry game, in my opinion. Pressure's on him. I don't think Nussmeier plays as bad as he's looked bad. I mean, that second half on the show, I was talking about potential odds for Heisman, and he looked so bad, dude, at Texas A&M. He looked like he was seeing ghosts, kind of like the Texas quarterbacks against Georgia. He was throwing some terrible picks, bro.
Yeah, there's one guy that's got the Heisman pretty much locked up at this point, I would have to say.
That guy's a machine, dude.
Yeah.
Like Ashton Genty, correct?
Oh, no.
Come on, man.
The best player in college football is Travis Hunter. We can get into that debate another time, but the guy's playing both ways.
I don't know, dude. Ashton Genty,
he's incredible.
Those numbers are bananas.
I'm not a Buffs guy, but I'll give Travis Hunter his flowers. The kid's incredible.
We'll get into that another day, but I mean, we'll get into it another day. But what was I saying? Oh, yeah. Just going back home to Tiger Stadium, I think they will rebound. Nussmeier will rebound, play a lot better. Brian Kelly, if you look at it, he doesn't lose back-to-back games very often. So
he does lose big games, though.
He does lose big games, but he usually wins a cup. I mean, he's had some big games that he won. He beat Ole Miss at night in Tiger Stadium. I think it's a similar game like that. Who knows? Overtime. And I really like the over. I feel like these teams aren't going to be able to stop anybody.
Fireworks.
But you're on Bama, I would imagine.
I am on Bama. Missouri game which I get Missouri. Quarterback was out. Brady Cook is out, but Alabama pretty much handled their business in that game. And I think their defenses looked better. I think their pass defenses looked a lot better recently. I think, for me, I don't believe in Brian Kelly one lick. I think the moment is too big for him. This game is massive for, if everything kind of stays how it is, which it won't. But there's a lot of implications on this game as far as who's going to have the last shot at a playoff chance here. And I think for me, I like Jalen Milroe more than I like Nussmeier. I think Alabama's defense is better than LSU's defense. I think LSU's defense is great at getting after the passer. They're great at rushing the passer, but when the passer is just as equally good of a runner, I think that's going to create a lot of problems for that LSU defense. So I think Milroe has to shine in this game, and I understand it's LSU at night. It's going to be a tough, ruckus crowd, and I agree with you that I think this game's going to be a shootout at the end of the day. I think these teams are going to go back and forth. Two different styles for me, but yeah, I agree with you. I like the over in this game as well. I do like Bama to win though.
Alabama's two different teams. They have not proven they have been able to play on the road, dude. I mean, Vandy, terrible. Tennessee, terrible. And now they're going to go to LSU at night. I mean, they look good against Missouri. They look great against Georgia in the first half, but these road woes are very worrisome. They got a very young team. I mean, Ryan Williams, their best receiver, he's 17. Everyone keeps liking to say that. I haven't heard a lot of that recently.
Yeah.
Of the 17-year-old talk. But
yeah,
I feel like they're going to make some turnovers. I think maybe get some Braden Swinson strip sack late in the fourth, seals it for the Tigers. And DeBoer is wearing a Saban hat at the freaking press conference after the game to get in the good graces. I mean, that guy seems like a pushover. And again, I think the wheels, and I want it to happen so bad, wheels to fall off. They lose this game. Maybe they lose to Auburn at the end of the year. Who knows?
Do you think it's been kind of weird? I guess probably the Missouri game was the first time I really saw it. The offense, at least to me, it feels like they're trying to run like this running gun, throw it around offense with a guy that's not like Jalen Milroe is a very capable passer, but to me, he's not great. And it feels like it's just so weird to watch this Alabama team because for so long it's just been just like Georgia, ground and pound, play defense, run the ball, and they just don't. Like, I guess the Missouri game was the first time I've really seen them commit to the run. And, I mean, they look good run the football. So, for me, I think they got to run the football and not just try to, throw the ball around so much. You use Milroe's legs, you use the running backs. They don't have like that premier guy at running back like they usually do, but I think you got to run the football if you're Alabama.
Yeah, and I think a lot of teams that used to be run all the time are switching. Even Iowa, dude, they're starting to throw the football these days, and I think NIL has a lot to do with it. There's not a ton of meat on the bone in the trenches, and teams that do that, there's a lot of what's the word? People getting hurt, just a lot of injuries, and not having depth with NIL, I think makes people a little bit hesitant to just be that team. I mean, especially with running backs. When your running backs gets hurt, you don't have that next guy because NIL. Who knows? That may be a part of it as well, but it hasn't been working for a lot of these teams that have been traditionally run first. I mean, it's been working to an extent just because of talent, right? But it is weird. It's weird to see some of these teams do that.
Nobody gets under center anymore. I don't think there's a team that gets under center unless you're Army or Navy or Air Force.
What is Army? They're 8-0.
Yeah.
We need to get back to that, man.
Wagon.
Even losing sometimes and just punching people in the mouth. I love it, man.
Yeah. Wear them down, man. Just wear them down. Yeah. Got to be able to run the football. Look at the NFL. All teams that can run the football are good. All these teams trying to do all this offense like in college, it's not going to work if you're going to try to throw the ball 50 times.
Running the football and using your running backs in general. 49ers, they perfected this. Shanahan perfected this when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl. Having running backs mismatches, with linebackers, just beating that guy really quick pass, stuff like that too. I mean, need to get more of that going. Again, Cash Jones scored on that exact, little choice route, cut inside. But with that, I got Tigers in a close game, strip sack. JT's got Bama.
I like the over more.
Yeah, we both like the over
more. If I'm gonna bet on anything in that game, give me the over.
It might be a double over. It might be one of them double overtime type games.
Over 50.5 shootout.
To get into the big game, Georgia goes into Oxford. Their biggest challenge at this point in the season. Got a loss. Even Georgia does have some big wins. They still have big games left on the schedule that they got to win. I don't know who we pissed off again with this schedule, but we are heading into Oxford. Thank goodness it's not a night game. 3:30. Fans will still be making their way from the Grove. They got a drinking problem down there. Going to be an asylum, I'm sure. Ole Miss to look good, put up 63 meaningless points against Arkansas, had Jackson Dart playing late into the fourth quarter, trying to prove a point to I don't really know who. Lane Kiffin knows he still has to beat Georgia. It really hasn't won any game of consequence since he's been there. Loses to Bama, losing every big game. He'll probably walk out there, tell Molly McGrath, get your popcorn ready, and probably put up 10 points. But I may be a little biased, but I think the defense shows back up this week. I think the Dogs have something to chase. They're a team that needs something to play for. I don't like that, but when the doubt starts to creep in, the Dogs start to hunt. And this line already started at Dogs -4, I think, and it's already getting closer to 1. So Lane Kiffin
2.5 right now.
There. Yeah, 2.5. Lane Kiffin's got to prove it to me before anything. But JT, what you think?
Yeah. They beat the crap out of Arkansas. I'll put it that way. Jackson Dart was on one that game. At the beginning of the game, when that whole situation at the goal line happened, they're wanting. I think they're wanting forward progress to be called, and they just didn't call it. Ends up getting a fumble, and then you look at Dart on the sideline. He's just not having it. He was out for blood at that point, and he made it clear. I think 5 touchdown passes. I don't know how many yards he threw for. I mean, they put up 60-something points, so they pretty much took care of business. I think it looks like to me, and Ole Miss is another team that's very up and down to me. They look great one week, and then they just kind of look pedestrian the next week. But they're playing some pissed off football. And to your point, I think this is the biggest game on their schedule to this point, a must win. You get the Dogs at home. And you get the Dogs in a spot where, like I said, this is not the same Dogs team to me very mistake prone. And I think if Carson Beck plays like he did last week, and you give this Ole Miss offense extra possessions, it's going to be a sweat. I'll put it that way. I think you get yourself in a lot of trouble if he throws 2 interceptions, 2+ interceptions, and gives Ole Miss field position. I think Georgia, you gotta run the ball, keep the ball out of their hands, because the more possessions you give them, the more chance you give them. They're not a team that's going to have a big time of possession. Obviously, they want to go fast, kind of like Tennessee, and they want to score quick. But if you can stop them, you can get them out before and out, and not give them the ball, then you kind of put them in a tough spot, because they're only going to have so many. If you only give them so many possessions, they can only do so much, especially if they're struggling on offense at all. But for me, this game's interesting because Ole Miss is top 10 in scoring offense and scoring defense. They're the only SEC team to be in both, and they are also the only SEC team to be top 10 in scoring offense, which I think will pose some issues for this Georgia defense. I think this game is one. They're going to be challenged more in this game than they were against Texas, especially on offense. It's the best offense they'll play all year, probably. And I think this is probably one of the better defenses outside of Tennessee they'll play all year. So that's why I think it's big. I think a lot of this is going to fall on Carson Beck and his ability to protect the football, because if he does not, this game could become an issue for them, and it could get away from them if that's the case, and if that Ole Miss offense is humming.
Yep. I mean, it's going to be the 2 T's, turnovers and who wins the trenches. Absolutely. I mean, I just don't see a way Carson Beck can throw 2 picks like he did against Texas in the first half, and be able to withstand that. Got to protect the football. But the flash and dash from Ole Miss, I mean, it's always been nice, and they can always do this every single year. But when they play a team that can punch them in the mouth, I mean, we were just laughing a second ago about Kentucky, and they lost to them at home. They only scored 17 points.
Yeah.
So,
and that was to my point. If you go back and look at if you look at the time of possession in that game, I think Kentucky had the ball for like 35 minutes, and Ole Miss had it for like I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 15.
They are under center. Kentucky, they were a lot under center.
Yeah,
I think, right?
Yeah.
So,
you keep the ball out of their hands. You make it tough on them.
Exactly. So, if you're going to do it, Bobo, one game, you haven't done it all year. How about you swallow your pride, put Carson Beck under center, and switch out Etienne and Frazier every 2 plays. I mean, just do that until they stop it. Run toss sweeps every play to long side of the field. I don't think they're going to do that. I think I'm speaking on deaf ears. But turnovers and winning the battle of the trenches, like every SEC football game, that's where this will be won. Jackson Dart, winning a big game. He just like Lane Kiffin, he's got to prove it to me. Being able to do that, he had a couple chances to really take over that LSU game. He had a couple third downs he could have hit, and that game's over. LSU is not in a position to win that game. He threw it away. So this game's at home. I think this poses a great risk to Georgia. Absolutely.
Where are the nerves at? Where are you where's your head at? What do you like?
It's weird. Like, it's so, I can see in my brain, Carson Beck throwing 2 picks in the first half, or a pick in the first half, not playing a good game. But I can see this Georgia defense also playing good and creating turnovers again. I mean, we got Michael Williams, Jalen Walker healthy at the same time. That's a fearsome pass rush. I know they get the ball out quick. Man, I would put my nerves at about a 6 to a 7, because it would be higher, but I know Georgia's. Let's just call it what it is. They have a game back, if need be, they have a back against the wall game against Tennessee at night, and I like our odds there. I do like our odds there, especially after a loss. So I don't know. We could get beat here. It's a possibility. I don't think it'll happen. Again, Lane Kiffin has not shown me he can beat a physical football team, and I think they're going to make more mistakes than us, and we're going to be more opportunistic on defense than them. And when need be, Carson Beck will and has shown he can make a third down throw. against Florida. We had to have a drive, had a couple checks at the line, threw it to Arian Smith for about 30 on the sideline. So he can make mistakes, but he also can settle things down when he needs to. And I just think the championship pedigree and Kirby against Lane Kiffin is too much of a mismatch, and Georgia wins. That's what I think.
Yeah. No, I think the deciding factor, and I said it in the live chat for that game Saturday, was it's going to come down to turnovers and mistakes, which any game you play in college football in the SEC is going to come down to who wins the turnover battle and who mitigates the mistakes. You got to play clean in a game like this. And like I said, if Beck gives Ole Miss any extra possessions, you guys are going to be in trouble. That's how I'm going to leave it at.
We shall see. Georgia has been overcome it in the past, but this offense probably is the best offense they've played. Them in Texas, hard to say with Texas. They've really played Georgia. I mean, yeah, they played Vandy, but still a lot to be seen about Texas, I believe.
Yeah. This is the best offense y'all play. This one right here.
Yeah. And again, it's going to be crazy there, I'm sure, if they can make it to the game. Again, I know they like to party.
Could be in that house.
Now it's the locks. Actually, we'll go upset. We'll go upset first. We're going to do upset of the week, and then we're going to go locks. I'll start with my upset of the week. Miami, they have been looking good. They've overcome some deficits in the second half. Their defense looks very, very gettable. I mean, where they're at, they're letting up 30 points a game.
Gave up what, 40 to Duke almost?
It was 31 with
31?
like 12 minutes left in the third quarter, and they didn't let them score.
I think it was close.
They were losing by 2 scores, and they scored 30 unanswered. So Miami, ever since that Virginia Tech crazy call on the Hail Mary in the end zone, taking that touchdown away, craziest, one of the crazier things next to that Texas game I've seen. But I think this is the week. Georgia Tech, they get them at home. Bobby Dodd at night, plus 11. Georgia Tech has been frisky at times. I think they can get them. I think Georgia Tech can beat Miami. They've done it before. I think back to when Florida State, after they won the Natty, they had a night game at Bobby Dodd, blocked a kick, had a walk-off blocked kick against Florida State, and that Aguero guy. That was like perfect. So I think Georgia Tech gets a special one. And for us, love to see them get a big win, and then we go into Bobby Dodd and we take care of business. But yeah, Georgia Tech, I think, gets a win this week against Miami at home.
Haynes King questionable in that game.
Their backup's not bad.
I haven't watched them.
Their backup's not bad. He played the North Carolina game, I believe, when they scored 52. He's not terrible. But yeah, I mean, I would like him to play. I like the number anyway. Miami does not look good on the road, and every game they play is close. So
big number.
Sprinkle money line, but if you're putting them in a parlay, I like Georgia Tech plus 11. What do you got?
Do you really want to know?
I have a feeling.
I'm going Ole Miss.
Hotty toddy.
I'm going Ole Miss. The line to me is like I've said it before with this 2.5 number. Like it's as home dogs. It's like it's very I don't know. It feels very telling to me. I just think what I've seen with Georgia, I think, like I said, if Carson Beck throws a couple interceptions, this game is going to be extremely close, and it's going to come down to the wire. And I think if Ole Miss is in this game in the fourth quarter with that offense, I think it's going to be a toss-up at that point, but I do like them in this game, plus 2.5. Even just to cover, I could see a situation where they're up, 1 or 2 points and Georgia goes down and kicks a field goal to win the game. So I could see a situation like that. I could see overtime. I kind of see this game getting a little hectic there at the end, and I think it's going to be really close. So I am going to take Ole Miss in this spot at home, 2.5-point dogs. And like I said, they're playing pissed off football right now. So I'm going to go Ole Miss in my upset.
Man, it's going to – all right. I'll remember that one. No, it's going to be a good – I mean, like you said, it's the best offense they've placed. So
it's a test. See. It's going to be a test.
We shall – yeah. But heading into locks, I wrote it down.
I got mine.
Yeah, my lock, South Carolina. I touched on it earlier. The
You taking South Carolina?
Vandy Magic's over. Vandy Magic's over. South Carolina, I think, goes in and wins this game. Diego Pavia gets suffocated. 31-10 Gamecocks.
I am going to a silent wagon. And somebody
Clemson,
like
they're gone.
Huh?
Not Clemson. They're done for. They were my wagon.
Not Clemson. No. This is a wagon that people aren't realizing they're a wagon. The Indiana Hoosiers are an absolute wagon. They are unbelievable. That Frank Signetti, if I'm an Alabama fan, I am pissed. I want that guy as my coach because this team is good. Beat the, kind of started out slow there against Michigan State, beat the brakes off of it. Wasn't even close. And the quarterback is back. I don't know how. I'm pretty sure didn't he like break his thumb? I don't know how he's throwing a football.
Yeah, he dislocated it, I think, in that Nebraska game.
Oh, the guy's good.
He's back though. Dude, they scored what? They scored 47 unanswered. They were down 10-0.
Yeah.
And boom.
I mean, it wasn't even close. So I was kind of pissed because that game was on Peacock. I'm like, how the hell are you going to put this game on Peacock? But Indiana's 8-1 against spread this year. Playing a Michigan team that has no quarterback, no offense. They stink. They are horrible. It's I don't know if you watched the Oregon game last week, but that team is dead in the water. There's nobody that wants to play for that team. They don't know who their quarterback is. They change quarterbacks every freaking possession. Michigan's 2-7 against the spread. Indiana's 5-0 in their last 5, and they're 5-0 against the spread at home. 14 points. Indiana is going to beat the absolute brakes off of this team at home. It's not even going to be. I'm pretty sure they're at home. Let me double check that.
It's in Indiana, and it's.
Let me double check that. I'm pretty sure it's at home. I could be wrong. No, it is in Bloomington, Indiana. This game is going to be a dog walking. Take the points. 14. I'm thinking this game is going to be freaking.
This game is going to be like the Nebraska game.
Oregon won like 35 to. I don't even know what the score was last week against them. They put up like 38-17. Something like that. Like it's going to be something like that. This game's going to be a blowout. And give me like 31-14. I don't think Michigan. I don't even know if Michigan scored 14 points against this defense. Indiana minus 14. Wagon.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I have to go a step further, dude. I think you sold me. I think 56-7, what they beat Nebraska. I think it's closer to that.
Yeah, if you can get an alternate line, take the alternate line. Put it up as high as you freaking want. This game's going to be a dog walking.
Yeah. Shamar, this Michigan head coach, I mean, he was getting his flowers last year for keeping the train alive. That guy's terrible, man.
He stinks.
Terrible.
Stinks.
Oh, to your point.
Harbaugh left that program in complete disarray.
They are. Bold prediction. I know Signetti, they've already been asking about, he's 9-0. What are your plans long term? I want to stay in Indiana. When Alabama comes a calling in the next year or so, once DeBoer's gone, I promise you he's taking that job, and me and you, JT, are going to be shivering in our boots. I will be when that happens. But that's what I feel like is going to happen. We're about a year away from that.
Dude is cold as ice. Turn that program around in a year. That's crazy.
Would you not be worried? A lot more worried if he goes to Bama.
Yeah,
he's like the same guy as Saban, like the same personality, demeanor.
Yeah. I don't want him coaching Bama. Stay in Indiana. Make your mark at Indiana. Stay there. That's good enough. I don't dude. If I don't want to touch that team. If Tennessee's in the playoff and we play Indiana first round, I'm going to be almost pretty much I won't use the term, but crap and bricks.
What a matchup that would be. Indiana headed to Tennessee against that good defense. Tennessee runs the football.
Yeah. I want no part of the Indiana Hoosiers. I'll put it that way.
I think they may get humbled a little bit against Ohio State in a couple weeks, but I think they dominate this game.
Where's that game at? Is that game in?
That's in Ohio State
game. It is. Yeah, it is. Yep. Michigan, Ohio State, Purdue. Yeah. I mean, this team, they put up, holy crap, 31, 77, 42, 52, 42, 41, 56, 31, 47. I mean.
Wagon.
They're a wagon.
Real wagon.
They're a wagon. Quiet. Everybody's talking about Clemson, but if you've rode the Indiana train, you're doing pretty well.
So I guess, is that pretty much, I guess that's the playoff game is Ohio State, Indiana, whoever wins that game will play Oregon, I assume. Because Oregon doesn't really
Uh,
play anybody, I don't think.
yeah. It'll come down to that game.
Oh,
I
because
think.
even if Oregon loses, I mean, yeah, they're
Yeah,
in.
our scenario where Oregon was going to not make it if they we needed Penn State to win by like 2 or 3 points, and then Oregon would have been in jeopardy. But
Mm.
no, yeah.
Well, yeah, so I am taking South Carolina for my lock. Georgia Tech, I'm telling you, sprinkle that. Look for Haynes King to play. I think he will. He's a gritty guy. JT's, I guess he's going hotty toddy. We'll revisit that next week, absolutely. And
Yeah.
then his lock is the wagon, the true wagon. That is the Indiana Hoosiers. Signetti, stay where you're at, brother. It's too hot down here in the South. Comment what you think about Carson Beck, maybe what your upset pick is of the week. Subscribe. We'll be back to you next week. Also, be on the lookout, like I said, my solo raw reaction to that Georgia-Florida game, my true thoughts, harsh reaction to Carson Beck, when I think he needs to do even in his personal life. Check that out. Should be coming out shortly. But we'll be back next week. And with that, go Dogs.
Go Vols, baby.